Naomi, do you see me live? Naomi? Okay. So, from my perception of things, I should be live on YouTube. Yeah, I'm live. Naomi, I'm live on YouTube. You need to turn that audio off. Just turn your audio all the way down. Naomi, not on the headphones, but on your computer. Turn that audio all the way down. Okay. Okay, looks like we're live on this. And welcome to my bit of a conversation, really for me, about getting to learn to live stream and getting to create some memories for my future self regarding my trip on the Pacific Crest Trail. This trip started out because as a homeschool experience, like we sent the kids out on the Camino de Santiago in, I think it was 2018. And Naomi and Kai and Teo, they went and hiked from, somewhere in the Pyrenees and all the way to the Atlantic. And I think they did about 700 miles or something like that through Spain. And we've always found that being in nature is one of the best ways to create a really strong body, a lot of fantastic experience, appreciation for beauty, depth of human personality. There's a lot of parental things that we wanted to. Hang on just a second. Honey, you need to turn your audio down. Your audio. Huh? Oh, that was coming from the from.
Coming from here, but because this hadn't paired.
Oh, okay.
I think I might have gotten it. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah. So our objective is to, work out glitches, because I run a a corporation that has everything to do with wellness, increasing quality of life, healing a person's inner journey of discovery, all of this kind of like really like epically cool stuff. And I'm setting up to do a podcast that like actually matters for me in my life. This is for me, for maybe some friends and family, or but mostly for my future, but for me to learn about how to do the podcasting thing. And so I just, Naomi and I are just working through some of the challenges of how to do this kind of stuff. So this is going to be, probably challenging and painful for you guys as we go through the learning process, but there's probably nobody online anyway. So like, who cares? So I just kind of had left some things off at the Camino de Santiago, and why we would send our kids out on a long trip like that. I think they were 13 and 15 when they did that, and we have a dear friend who owns the North Fork Chai company here in Newcastle, California, and I had taken him out on a prototype of a outdoor kind of like um, Vision Quest, Adventure Quest kind of a thing, and we were working out some of the logistics of that, and he was really upset with his life, and you know, when people are out in nature and they spend time together, they become more vulnerable, they become more raw, things become more authentic. It's really beautiful. And, I just asked him, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? He's like 22, I'm like in my late 40s when this happened. And he's like, I want to go do the Pacific Crest Trail. And I had heard of it. I had done most of the John Muir Trail, which basically overlaps the Pacific Crest Trail. And I had done that in '94 with my mother as a graduation from college trip back when backpacking gear sucked. I mean, it's good equipment, but really heavy. And so it makes it really hard. Nowadays, we've got such dope equipment that, man, you can go pretty freaking light and it's wonderful. It's a different activity when you have 15 or 20 pounds on your back rather than having 60 pounds on your back. It's a different activity. And this guy Josh, he's like, I want to go do the PCT. And so I'm like, oh, well, why don't you do it? Like, what's stopping you? You got a shit job that you don't like and whatever. This was before he started his coffee company. And he was like installing solar or something in summer, like rough. And so he uh, he took that info to heart, and I'm a inspirational kind of motivational dude. And so he took it to heart, and he respects me as a person and looks at me as a bit of a mentor. And I now look at him as a mentor. He's made a big difference for me also. That's how things are supposed to be, right? Like, we are each other's medicine. That's reality. And so Josh quit his job and stuff, and one of his buddies joined him, and he went and did the Pacific Crest Trail in 2017, 2018, one of those years. And while he was out on the trip, he said he's like, he had the insight that he wanted to own his own coffee company. Well, or his own coffee shop. Well, within a year of him getting home, he teamed up with his sister. I think his mother has quite a bit to do with it. And they've built out, one of the nicest coffee shops I've ever been to in my entire life. And it's 2 miles from here. Josh lives about a mile from me. His coffee shop is 2 miles from me. And they've done a spectacular job. And so when the kids got home from the Camino, and the trip was obviously just this epically big success, I, I started looking for things from 2018, late 2018, 2019. Okay, well, what's next? Well, in early 2020, the whole COVID thing was happening and everything, and the kids are now 15 and 17 years old. And so then we just, put it out there of like, let's have the kids, let's do a trip on the Pacific Crest Trail. I didn't know how long it was. It turns out that it's like 2,500 miles or something like that. I thought it was like 1,600 or 1,800 miles long. It's not. And so when I approached my younger son with it, and I'm like, I think you're doing the PCT this year. And he's like, Dad, I'm not too sure I want to do that. And I'm like, I'm not sure you were born into the right family. because as parents, we don't know how to um, parent screens. You're sitting here, you're looking at a screen, I'm looking at a screen, and these screens, they cause damage. They're not healthy for us, and they rob people of dopamine, and they make people more lethargic. There's an argument that it lowers IQ. I don't know if that piece of it's true, but as a parent who cares about their kids, not all parents do, um, we want to do what's best for our kids, and we want them to get to know themselves. And you're not going to go do the PCT and not get to know yourself. You're going to spend hundreds of hours inside of self-discovery, you know, and you can only distract yourself so much out on trail. And that's one of the reasons why when I set out this last year, it's like I really wanted to spend a lot of time alone. And I think that that's a really good thing to do. I think getting to know yourself and understanding the being that you are is of paramount importance, because you'll then act in alignment with the being that you are, and that'll deliver you to the life that you would love to have. And so it starts with you connecting with yourself and you understanding yourself and you walking through God's painting, day after day, after week, after month. Is a pretty good way to go pretty deep with yourself. And so, anyway, we set the kids out on the trail in 2020, and they had an epically good trip. The way that we structured it was that I started the trail with them. I hiked with them for 2 weeks. Then Naomi, she came out. She joined the trip at Highway 10, mile 200 approximately. Walked with them for 2 weeks. Then I came back out and joined them. So Naomi and I flip flopped a bunch of the trail. So like I'd be on trail for 2 weeks, then off trail for 2 weeks, then she'd be on trail. I'd be, but we just kind of felt like they needed a parent um, with them. They're 15 and 17. They're super competent kids. They've spent, before that trip, they had spent hundreds of nights out under the stars, camping, hiking, kayaking, rafting, rock climbing, whatever. They're freaking rad and they're strong. Good kids. And, and, but we shut our chiropractic office down while we did the High Sierras. And uh, we um, we did that as a family, and as a person who has done a lot of rock climbing, a lot of backpacking, a lot of kayaking. I've paddled dozens, hundreds of days of class 5 whitewater in a kayak. My wife and I rafted and kayaked the Grand Canyon. She rafted, I kayaked the Grand Canyon at really high water levels in 2011. And, you know, I've had some epically good experiences. Naomi and I used to live in northern Patagonia. We set up the first chiropractic practice in the country of Chile, and so we were living in northern Patagonia, and we weren't there for a super long time, but I've had some amazing experiences. And but as a family, hiking, you're just walking, hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. I mean, how boring is walking, right? It was super clear to me it was the best trip I had ever done. And that was probably like day 14, day 15 of the High Sierras. And yeah, it's amazing. It was astounding to me that something so mellow could be so incredibly rewarding. And so that's what motivated me to take some time off. I've been in clinical practice for 25 years. I do a really unique thing. I'm really good at it. And we're changing a lot of lives. It's really beautiful. And I just wanted to take some time to myself. I knew I needed to go do it. I needed to go do that thing. And so I decided to go and do this PCT thing. And I didn't actually think I could do it. I knew physically, my God, my body is incredible. Although I'm like always a little bit chubby, but which is a drag. But so like mentally and emotionally, I didn't think I could do it. I knew that physically I would be able to do it. And there's my first lesson to silence my mobile phone. What a rookie mistake. And so I got myself out there because I knew I needed to do it. And I must be just a total egomaniac. Even though it's like I generally don't seem to think super highly of myself, but I must be an egomaniac because I just didn't think that I would really get much out of the PCT. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I knew physically I could do it, but mentally and emotionally, I didn't think I could do it. I figured about mile 500, 600, I'd be like, I'm going home, and I'd make up some sort of an excuse to come home. That didn't happen. I didn't have any mental, emotional issues at all. But what happened was that I found, boy, really interesting was that I it changed me. I, I've been home for, oh, that's interesting. I've been home for, let's see here, October, November, December, January, February. I've been home for exactly the amount of time that I was out on trail. That's amazing. Is that accurate? Whatever. It's very close. And I still haven't been able to completely identify like how it's changed me, but it has made me like way more transparent. And I'm a pretty damn transparent person. And I, um, you know, my wheelhouse is personal growth, healing, self discovery, transformation, becoming the human you would love to be. And I've been walking that walk for a long time. And, and so it was surprising to me that I didn't have any problems out on trail, mentally and emotionally, but it made a huge difference to me personally. And what I got clear about is that what I've put together through my professional life, it's epically good. And the amount of material that I've created is enormous. I think I've got 974 fully animated PowerPoint slides from teaching others and myself about this incredible healing journey, wellness experience thing. And I'm going to be kicking that off here in the next number of days. I'm just going to kind of go through this a bit just so I can get this off my chest because this matters to me. So I found myself out on the Pacific Crest Trail. I started April 7th of, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that I'm filming this 5 months after I finished? right? It's incredible how the universe lines things up. So I started my trip 10 months ago today, and I finished my trip 5 months ago today. And I had, I, my experience of the trip was that I absolutely crushed it. Generally my body, like I'm fit, like my heart, lungs, they all like are really good, but I'm always carrying extra weight on me. Um, and but anyway, I found myself out there April 7th, and I had this fortunate whatever. It's like my mother drove me and my wife Naomi down to the southern terminus to start this trip. And this is a picture of Lake Morena. We hiked from the southern terminus to Lake Morena the first day. It was too much for me. But if you happen to have noticed, we were able to slack pack, which means we didn't carry our backpacks. We didn't need to because my mother dropped us off at the terminus and she met us at Lake Morena. She was going to be down in LA for the first 3 weeks, uh, trail angeling us. The phrase trail angel means it's a person or a group of people that take care of people that are out on trail. There's a lot of them out there. They're completely fantastic. They're completely lovely. You can rely on these people. There's all kinds of Facebook groups, all these kinds of things to support people on their PCT through hike. My mother came down to support me for the first bit of time while I was out there. So I didn't have to carry a backpack. So I'm not going to carry a backpack. I was able to just carry my running pack with me. That was that Solomon pack that you saw me wearing in the first couple photos. And this is just me at camp, probably morning of day 2. And this is Naomi. That's her running pack on day 2. And this is us, her crossing the first big creek on day 2. And what a blessing to have my mom trail angel us, because we're going to do like 11 or 14 miles here on day 2, and then my mom's just going to pick us up and we're going back to Lake Morena to camp again. And it isn't for like 3 days before we even put on a backpack. Naomi and I have a ton of experience backpacking and doing all kinds of stuff in the wilderness. And so, we don't have any need. Everybody needs to hike their own hike. Some people feel like they need to stay on the PCT all the time. I certainly don't feel that way. If there is a dirt road that cuts off 15 miles of stuff that I don't want to walk, I'm going to take the dirt road. If there's a trail that makes the trip shorter, but maybe it's a little bit steeper, but I'm not missing anything epically good, then I'm going to take the shorter route. And some people are going to hate on that because I'm not some super purist or anything. And some people would say that I didn't hike the PCT. And the reality is everybody needs to hike their own hike. And certainly that's how I roll. And I love it if somebody's going to be like a super purist, whatever. Well, we started out just like with running packs, and not even on the day that we had permits for, because it just wasn't convenient. I think I had a permit for a week before I was supposed to start in late March. I started in April, and the permitting system is a wonderful thing that the PCTA is doing. I think it's an important thing. But at the same time, my life experience says that if you're gonna just follow all the rules that are given to you by, a nonprofit, well, just in life, if you're gonna follow all the rules, then prepare for an ordinary life. And so I'm not above breaking rules, and so we started on a different date, And I love it. I love it that I give myself that flexibility. And so anyway, here we are here on day 2. We still don't have our backpacks on. And the scenery down in Southern California is continuously epically good. I mean, the entire trip, it's super beautiful. I mean, the reality is that you're walking through God's painting. That's what you're doing. And it's so neat to just notice how, you know, maybe you're not very fit when you start, like I was fit when I started. Um, Naomi she's always really fit, and it's nice because her physiology matches her fitness, which is really wonderful. But even if you're like, you consider yourself to not be fit, this trip will make you fit. And what you just need, what people need to do, in my opinion, is just don't go too fast. Keep your pack absolutely as light as possible. Maybe you need a little bit of comfort items, but keep your pack as light as possible. And if you can only do 4 or 5 miles a day, do 4 or 5 miles a day and start in March. you know if you can start out and you can do 10 or 14 miles a day, and start in early April. And I started in early April because I was just itching to get out on trail, man. I was like 25 years into practice. My life is so freaking good. But at the same time, I was just like ready. I was stoked to be out there. And so I started earlier than I needed to be. And I knew that. I knew that if you just crush through the desert, you're going to enter the high Sierras too early. And then you're just going to deal with tons and tons of snow every day. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to put yourself in the situation where you're having to cross rivers when the rivers are really high, and take all these unnecessary risks, and make your days way harder. The high Sierras are the real deal. You're going to find an adventure in the high Sierras. And but I'm just such an advocate. I was on the phone with a buddy of mine, and he's like 70 pounds overweight. I was on the phone with him earlier today, and he's like, I would never want to do the PCT like you did. And I'm like, well, I think you should do it. And he's like, well, I kind of want to do it. And I'm like, did you just hear what you said? And so it was a really funny thing. And I'm like, oh, dude, how about this? How about we just go do the desert section, and we'll just do 5 or 6 miles a day, you know? And he's like, you know, he's like starting to come around a little bit. So maybe in a few years, I'll get to go and spend a couple of months walking through the desert with a buddy of mine. I hope that happens. It'd be really good for him. But you've got one body. And the reality is that your health is the most important thing to you. It is the central aspect of you, is your health and your physiology. And healthy people want a myriad of things. Unhealthy people, they want one thing. And so if you find yourself in the place where you want more health, going and walking every day, the distance that you can walk, it's arguably the healthiest thing that you can do for yourself. Throw a backpack on, camp every night, hang out in nature. Arguably pretty healthy. So this is a picture of Naomi. This is kind of like a throwback of a photo that we took of Teo when we were walking through this area. Teo had picked up one of these, and he was 15 and running around like a monster with it and stuff. And so here's Naomi kind of reenacting that photo. Great. Look at how easy that is. See, I'm learning about how I can move stuff around. It's really great. Now that is a surprise that photograph is there, because that was out of place. So this is just Southern California desert. You're around 2,400 feet of elevation, give or take. This one obviously higher, probably around 4,000 feet of elevation. You'd be surprised. I know that the first time I got out on the PCT in 2020, I was shocked at how absolutely freezing the desert can be. Because my perception of a desert is rattlesnakes, lizards, cactus, and heat. And that exists. But what also exists is a real significant amount of altitude and coldness and wind. And so you need to be prepared for that stuff. And there's a couple legit mountains in the desert section of the PCT that are legitimately both years that I've done the desert section, the mountains, Mount San Jacinto and Mount Baden Powell, are real close to as difficult as anything in the high Sierras. You don't have the river crossings on San Jacinto or Baden Powell, but you get a real experience of temperatures and traveling in the snow with a backpack, using micro spikes, maybe using an ice axe, those kinds of things. And so I think that must have been San Jacinto. I don't know. That's Mount San Gregornio or something like that. That we're not north enough to be seeing Mount San Jacinto. Maybe it's Mount San Jacinto. That's one of the things about this trip that will probably frustrate some people. I could care less about it. Like I just don't know what all the mountains are, and I don't know the distances and these kinds of things, and so it's all kind of arbitrary. I was just kind of taking it one day at a time, and really paying attention to what my body could do and what my body wanted to do. So a lot of the landmarks I'll be wrong about. I wish. I mean, I appreciate that pictures don't do justice to 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 travel experience, whether it's whitewater, rock climbing, backpacking. This place was beautiful, and it just doesn't really show. This is day 3. We've now got our backpacks on. Naomi, um, she was with me for the first 2 weeks of my 5-month trip. This is the long flat section as you come down out of the hills to get to Scissors Crossing. Scissors Crossing is roughly at mile 70. And what you see Naomi in here, she's got these really flowy like desert pants. So they're really thin, flowy pants. Really wonderful to keep the sun off of you. The umbrella. It seems a little silly, but those umbrellas make probably experientially a 10-degree difference. They're super valuable. The kids kind of discovered that. The kids after their um, Camino de Santiago in 2018, they did the PCT in 2020, Mexico to Canada. Then they did Georgia to Maine on the Appalachian Trail in 22. And they're doing the Continental Divide Trail this year, Canada to Mexico. They're starting that in about 4 months. So this is a bar, the VFW. You know, we ran into a run-of-the-mill, good-hearted local and his dog in the local VFW. Naomi and I are sitting there getting beers. This is in the little town of Julian. My mother picked us up at Scissors Crossing, whisked us off to the little town of Julian, and took us out to an epically good uh, um, Italian dinner, and we stayed in a lovely hotel. I mean, very nice. Some of these pictures somehow are a little bit out of order. This is at like mile 1. Anyway, this is here again in Julian. Here we are drinking beers at a different pub in Julian. And this is a picture of us before we're walking down into Scissors Crossing. These pictures must be out of order a little bit because we were using my phone and her phone kind of combined or something like that. That's the Ocotillo, Naomi? Oh, you're a little bit behind me, right? Okay. I think that's called an Ocotillo cactus. Really neat, especially when they're flowering. And so this is walking out of Julian, which you climb. It's a climb. This is just a unique little cave right on the side of the trail. Here we are at mile 100. This would have been probably 2 days after we left Julian. And this is us walking down to there are these meadows before you get to Eagle Rock. There are these meadows that you cross that are just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, really long stretches of absolutely beautiful meadows with just huge, huge views. You know, that flower assembly, that spike of flowers is probably a foot wide and like 3 feet tall. This is Eagle Rock for obvious reasons. I love how easy it is to just move this stuff around. Naomi, is there anybody online? That's interesting.
I don't know if I'm a moderator on this channel. You might have done it only on the other channel.
Oh, okay. I'll have to. Okay, that's really good for us to learn. Hey, if you're online, if you're actually watching this online, will you just type your name into the chat real quick so that we can get so that we can learn a little bit? Sorry that I'm making this so much about us, but I have no need to. I have no need to go fast with this. It's about learning.
Looks like I am a moderator. I just sent it a text.
Oh.
I just put chat in just
Oh.
for to test.
Okay.
And I have a little wrench next to it.
Okay, so you are a moderator.
But I don't know how to tell who's watching. It just says.
Yeah, I just asked them to type their name into the chat. Yeah. So it's an sorry this is so long and drawn out, but I'm, huh?
Yeah. Oh, you talking to me?
I was talking to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. I'm enjoying myself, so that's half the battle, right? Yeah. So this is Eagle Rock for obvious reasons. Yeah. The flowers in the desert are they're incredible. And but I'm going to say that so many times. It's incredible. It's like, how is it possible that there are millions of these flowers? You know, it's worth it. It's worth getting out there and going and doing the thing. Yeah, it's worth it. The hardest part of the PCT is getting to the starting line. Everything else, if you're just smart about it, you can do it. I mean, the mistakes that you can make there's quite a number of them, but the main ones are just going too fast and trying to keep up with other people. There's no need. There's no need to do that. Just, it was really great to have Naomi out on trail. um, for the first couple of weeks. Really nice to kind of get launched with your lover. That is an amazing tent that's made by Z-Packs. It weighs 21 ounces. You set it up with your trekking poles. It's done the PCT twice now. It's done the AT. It's done the Tahoe Rim Trail. I did that, I think, last year or the year before, 2 years ago, maybe 2023. It's also done the OT, the Washita Trail in Arkansas and Oklahoma. It's still waterproof. It's, like an $800 tent, but it's incredible. It's a 3-person tent. And so I had this lavish frickin' mansion. I live in this ridiculously big house here, and then I had this ridiculously big house out on the trail. It was really pretty funny. And but what a lovely thing. Can't say enough about what the people over at Z-Packs are doing with gear. Same thing with Outdoor Vitals. The folks at Outdoor Vitals are phenomenal. They're making incredible gear. These are berries on a manzanita plant. I knew that manzanita threw out berries, but I had never seen clusters of berries like this on manzanita. There's so many things that you see in nature that you really didn't know exist. Like, it's incredible. This is not an uncommon setting for, where you set up your tent or, where you camp at night. It's just you're up on a little knoll, giant granite boulders, super beautiful. It's five-star accommodations. Not every night. My God, not every night, but 3 out of 5 nights, 5-star accommodations, super epic views. You'll see so many throughout this slideshow of I'm taking a picture out of a tent or whatever it happens to be. I mean, the views continuously all the time are just epically good. So we had gotten ourselves down to Paradise Valley Cafe, which is the next big resupply place because you have access to the little town of Idlewild. And we met up with these 2 people here. So this is Naomi, and then we've got Hoot Owl is the guy in the brown hat, and Summit is the young lady that is kind of covered up there, and we'll see more photographs of them. But we teamed up to do San Jacinto together because San Jacinto is real, and having a team going into something that's real is better than going solo. And we had way more supplies than we needed. They were a little bit light on supplies, and so we were able to save a trip into town for them. And apparently we were supposed to meet. These are 2 really great people. Both of them are employees or were employees at REI. Both of them are epic, world-class hikers. Summit got her name. So trail names are an interesting thing. It's tradition on the Pacific Crest Trail that everybody adopts a trail name. And Summit earned her name because she has summited all of the highest peaks in every state. And so her name is Summit. I think that she might have to revisit Mount McKinley in Alaska. Um, why the other name of McKinley is escaping me right now is unfortunate. I think that she and her crew had to turn around very shy of the summit for safety reasons. I think a storm was coming in, but effectively she's done all 50 summits. What an accomplishment. Wonderful young lady, and she has a wonderful partner, Hoot Owl. The four of us, got along really well. So here we are in our first experience of snow. We're right at the tail end of our first week. And so this is up on like Apache Peak or something like that as we're getting up towards San Jacinto. This is the three of them crossing another freaking snowfield. This is we're a few hundred yards past where that French guy died. You would never be able to tell how steep this is or anything, but a French person died in 2020, about a week before Kai and Teo and I traversed this section. So we were all a little bit nervous about it. It turned out to be completely no big deal. Hoot Owl on a pretty interesting section. And so this is getting right close towards the top of Apache Peak. This is a picture down towards this is the wall between California and Mexico. I don't understand why that is there, and so I'm learning more about double checking to make sure my shit's in order here. So I really like this picture of Hoot Owl. This is just really great, really strong young man. This is one of the best photographs from the trip. This is Hoot Owl and Summit's tent up on San Jacinto somewhere. I don't think I have any photographs of the myriad, hundreds of blowdown trees that we hiked over that day. That was a long day. We did a lot of miles. A couple 50-year-olds, 55-year-olds keeping up with some 30-somethings, and they're strong hikers. Naomi and I are strong too, though, so it was fine. But I somehow caught this photograph. I love it. I love it. Love it. Yeah, this is the next day out wherever, still out on San Jacinto. We're coming up to some photographs that are, best of the trip for sure. And I don't think that that's my absolute favorite photograph from the trip, but it's in the top 10. This is us coming down off of, let's see here. This is in day 1 or 2 because I've got my running pack on. So this is in the first 3 days. So I don't know why that's out of that. I don't know why that's sitting there. This is us moving down and off of San Jacinto. That's San Jacinto in the background of Naomi right there. And this is the four of us at mile 200. So we're getting really close to where my mom picks us up. Okay, so between that last photo and this, my mom picked Naomi and I up, drove Naomi back home so that she could start running the office again. And this is me setting out on my own. And so I'm roughly 200 miles from the start of the PCT. So I'm about 200 miles in, and I'm starting the Mission Creek section of the PCT. This is the first time I'm alone on the PCT. And this is the first time I've seen this section. I had done that other section um, before, so it's really great. This is like, where my experience of the PCT seriously started to change. This is Mission Creek. You can't see Summit in and under that tree, but she's in there. These are probably some of my favorite flowers from the entire trip because they go from Mexico to Canada. They are these little tiny plants. They look like miniature ice plant. And let's say there's 50 blossoms in that photograph. There are places where all the ground is just covered in this, and they can run. They're white and kind of a reddish pink to violet. They run through that spectrum of color, and they're really prolific, and they're exceedingly beautiful. They're only like maybe an inch or two off the ground. It's a real beautiful covering. It's a strong plant. Oh, this is great. These are a couple guys. That's Grimy on the right hand side, and who I will refer to as Lieutenant on the left. They are going over the bridge over Deep Creek. And what had happened was that there's a place called Deep Creek Hot Springs that's basically generally full of drunk local hippies that are dirty. Hikers are dirty. Hikers are dirtier. But when I got there, it was like middle of a Saturday. The kids and Naomi, when they got to this section in 2020, they had a really, really great experience here. So I was really looking forward to it. I got there in the middle of the day, and there's like 35 or 40 people um, in the different hot springs and stuff. And it was the most ghetto derelict thing. I just couldn't deal. It was my vibe at all. And the energy was like dark. It was not cool. And Grimy came walking up, and he's like, oh, hey man, we're gonna crush on out like this next 6 or 8 miles, and we're going to like the Josh house. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's this bar in the desert that you can hitch to, and you can sleep in their dirt parking lot, but they've got beers and hamburgers. And I'm like, I'm with you. And so I grabbed my stuff and caught up to them. So I'm catching up to them. So this is Grimy and Lieutenant. I had only bumped into them 3 or 4 times. Both of them fantastic people. Lieutenant is a lieutenant in the army, military, whatever branch of the military from somewhere in Europe. Grimy is a dissatisfied web developer who made a pile of money and it was just like, I'm done with this. I'm getting a better life for myself. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to go walk the Pacific Crest Trail. But I think I look forward to connecting with him if I ever see him. I hope I connect with him again. I spent a lot of time with Grimy, and so this is me, closing in on them, and they're fast hikers. And so it took me a while to catch them. This is us at this spillway for this river system, and it was really neat because the echoes were just strange, unique, and neat and fun, you know. And so I don't have any pictures of the Josh House and stuff like that, but that was where I met Hollywood, Little Champ, Firecracker, Saunter, a bunch of people. Some of them I had met. One of them I had met in 2020, um, and the other people, it was just one of these desert towns. People, tired hikers have all done 20 to 25 miles that day, and now they're getting to drink beer and eat hamburgers. And so that's a party, in some shabby little bar somewhere. And God, my God, hats off to these entrepreneurs out in the desert that are recognizing that there's a community of people that they can serve by just creating some sort of funky wash your clothes here thing. You can camp here, come buy our beer thing, whatever it happens to be. And people are making serious freaking cash doing it. And the hikers are just, my gosh, so grateful. We're so grateful for those kinds of services. And I think this is called Silverwood Lake, something like this. This is where I got my trail name, Guardian. And so let me see here. That would have been this lake here. It was like later that day was when I got my trail name, Guardian. Um, my job is to tell stories right now. So, um, you meet a lot of people. There's a lot of people out hiking by themselves. And there's a lot of women out hiking the trail by themselves. And so the way the circumstances worked out was that there was an unruly bear that had been hassling hikers in a campground in this lake, where all the hikers, basically, not all the hikers, a lot of the hikers stay at this lake, at this one particular campground. It's very convenient. And and it's a wonderful thing, because if you're out backpacking, there's a lot of things that I find really interesting. You get away from the comforts of home to go into the outdoors, and then you're in the outdoors, and the first thing that you start looking for is creature comforts. What backpackers would give for an outhouse? What backpackers would give for a picnic table to have dinner at or breakfast at? It's like, I mean, it's funny, you know, you give up your comforts to go out and do this thing. And then what are you doing? You're looking for comfort the whole time. Um, it's true. And some bears had been hassling people. And so I had run into Lucky, who smashed her face on a rock the previous year, opened up her head really bad, and was unconscious for a while. And somebody found her and whisked her off to the hospital. But it ended her trip at like mile 1850 in the year 2023. And so she got to the hospital, got herself all fixed up. So she was coming back to do that trail again. She's from Slovakia. Lovely lady. And we met, and we ended up in Big Bear together at some point. And she and I and this guy from England drank this huge bottle of tequila. It was awesome. We had such a great time. And so Lucky and two other women I had spent the last 2 or 3 days hiking with. We get into this area, and I wasn't hiking with them all the time. We all walk at different paces. All three of them were hiking by themselves. I was hiking by myself, but we would run into each other, get water together, whatever. Hey, good to see you again. See you later. Well, we ended up walking the last 4 or 5 miles into this town together. And what human beings do, human beings are community oriented animals. And they group up together when danger is around. And so we were obviously grouping up, and I could tell what was happening. It was that there were two guys, three women, four women, maybe myself, and I would definitely feel more comfortable. Um, with other people around. If there's some frickin' bear that is causing all kinds of problems, keeping people up at night trying to get their food and stuff like that, right? Like those are serious animals. And and so I could tell what was going on, and so I'm pretty gentle about the way that I do things sometimes. And so I say something to the effect of, hey, maybe we could all just kind of hang out together or whatever, and invite them to for us all to camp together and stuff. And so that all kind of starts taking shape, and so then we camp together. And what was interesting was that I have the tendency to just not even set up a tent unless my wife is with me. She prefers to sleep in a tent. I prefer to sleep out under the stars, and so I generally don't. I generally don't sleep set up a tent. So when we get into camp, but most backpackers set up tents every night. And so we get into camp, and I'm not setting up a tent, and I kind of set myself up on the outskirts of where they were. And Lucky was she kind of misperceived things. She's like, she saw that I was setting up my tent somewhere where if a bear was going to walk through, I was going to be the first person that it dealt with. And I was fine with having that position. I understood the situation. I saw how we had our camp set up and stuff like that, but I didn't set up a tent. And so she's just like, well, why did you set up there and you didn't set up a tent? And I'm like, well, I like sleeping out under the stars, and um, I like to be able to see what's going on. And she's like, that's so sweet. You're like our guardian. And so one of the other women piped up and said something like, that should be your trail name. Do you have a trail name? I'm like, no, I don't have a trail name. And so then they went through a whole ceremony and gave me the name Guardian, which is kind of interesting because it's like they made a little bit of a mistake. They didn't really realize that I wasn't setting up a tent to protect them. What they didn't know was that I carried a frickin' handgun with me. I've got my Smith and Wesson 9mm shield in my pack. I not in my pack. I had it in my fanny pack right in front of me the entire time. Nobody knew that I had it, but I I I grew up with guns. My stepfather was a Navy SEAL, and so I think it's really good to be in a position. I think my dad said it. He is also ex-military, and he said it's if you need a gun, you'd prefer to have a gun rather than to want a gun. And I'm like, yeah, I should have a gun. So I've got a concealed carry weapons license, and so I had a gun down in the desert. I sent it home at the beginning of the Sierras because there's nothing in the high Sierras that are there's no concern about the high Sierras. And I'm quite a protective person. Is really wonderful because I got a trail name that like fits my personality really well. I am a very protective person. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I definitely take care of people. I'm definitely aware, and I'm proactive, and not the most timid in the crowd. So it was really great. It was really great to get a really great trail name, and this was the location that happened at. So we're making our way to Cajon Pass is the next place. And so this is the sign to the McDonald's, which is literally, what is that, 4/10 of a mile off trail. And I'm the guy that, I'm married to a woman who's got a nutrition science degree, valedictorian of her high school. And we teach nutrition seminars. So how long has it been since I've been to McDonald's, right? Well, I'll tell you, I went to McDonald's twice while I was in Cajon Pass, and it was so good. It's like just sucking down Coke or Pepsi, whatever it is that they have, and eating Whoppers and chicken McNuggets, which it's all just so gross as I think about it, but it was so good, and it was not the grossest stuff I ate on trail. Like by the time you get into Washington, you're just eating anything that has a calorie in it. You just pig out on everything that you possibly can. So this would have been probably the next day or something like that. There's all these like sketchy outside of LA aqueducty like things and shabby stuff. Like there was more than one time when I was very grateful that I had a handgun with me. And I don't think very many people carry handguns on the PCT. I think I think you're silly to not have one. So this is up on Cajon Pass. This is where I made one of the most epic, my gosh, epic mistakes. Yeah, so we'll kind of cruise back here to Cajon Pass area. It's like a 15-mile climb. It's hard to believe that it's that long, 10 miles. I don't know how far it is. But I didn't take enough water with me, and I ended up in this situation where I had no water. And so I was completely out. I was probably 8 miles from water. I was completely out, and I was camping. And it was really great. The reality is that the trail provides. If you don't think that the trail provides, if you think that the universe doesn't provide, if you don't think that there is something caretaking you in this world that's bigger than you, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And the PCT is a really beautiful way of explaining to people experientially that which is provides. Okay. And I've got a few stories. I'm only going to tell one right now. The other one is better. By a fair distance. But the way that things roll out on the PCT is that the trail provides. That's a common thing. That's surprising to people. It's not surprising to me. I live by these principles. And I had ended up with no water. And I am at the end. I had set up a camp. I had done probably 20, 22 miles that day, 18 miles maybe, I don't know. Climbed a lot. The climb out of Cajon Pass is a real climb. And I've got no water. I don't have any way to make my dinner. But, I know that it's not some life or death situation. It's just like you just roughen it a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. And these people came four-wheeling. These two Mexican dudes come four-wheeling up to the end of this dirt road. They stop their vehicle. One guy hops into the back and pulls out 2 1-liter bottles of water. They might have even been 1.5 liters each. And he grabs one for himself and one for his partner in the passenger seat, throws one to him through the little sliding glass door between the cab and the bed. And, so of course I stand up, the gateway of opportunity opens up, and it's like, well, take some action. Okay. So I step into that gateway, no problem. And I go, hey, could I buy one of those? Do you have any more? Could I buy one of those from you? And the guy's like, he of course doesn't think anything of it. And he's like, oh my God, you can have one. And I'm like, it would make a really big difference to me, throws me 1.5 liters of water, changes that is common experience on the trail. The trail provides. This is up on Mount Baden-Powell. After a little bit of walking through Cajon Pass, you end up, everybody kind of rallied at the bottom of Baden-Powell. Baden-Powell is the next significant mountain in the desert. Like there are serious mountains in the desert. I think this is 9,000 or 10,000 feet, whatever, like seriously lower than the peaks in the High Sierra. But legit mountaineering skills, you know, that you kind of need. Um, and so we all woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning. There were about 15 of us to take off and climb up Mount Baden-Powell. This is a little bit later in the day. I hope I have some pictures. I don't understand. I'm really bummed about how some of these are out of order. So this is the top of Baden-Powell. This is Puma and Pusher. They are a couple from the East Coast. They were out doing the Pacific Crest Trail. Neither one had ever been in the snow before. The three of us hung out together in the group of 15. Everybody except for the three of us left around 3:30. We left around 3:45, and we got our headlamps on. You can see how Pusher still has his headlamp on. He hasn't taken it off yet. Neither of them had ever been in the snow together, so the three of us, I recognized that they had never been in the snow together, snow before. I've got a lot of backcountry snow experience, and so I hung with them. Being safe is the way to go. You're gonna put yourself out there on the edge. You're gonna go score yourself a legit adventure. Doing it safely is the right call. So that's my style. I recognize this in them, so I hung with them, and I hope I have some photographs. So this is just me up on the top, and that looks like we're actually coming down. So I maybe don't, yeah, I don't have any more photographs of that. I don't understand how this is set up this way. This is me learning that I don't have my photographs set up correctly somehow. And so I don't know where to go from here, because that's really unfortunate. I have some epically good photographs of Pusher and Puma in the night hiking on Baden-Powell. It doesn't look like they're going to show up. So I think what I really need to do is I need to go back and rearrange my photographs. I should probably be done, because I don't want them to be missed if they're just not in the slideshow for whatever reason. They need to be. And so I'm going to follow through with that detail. I think I'm going to go ahead and be done with the live stream now, lick my wounds a little bit, and reorganize things. And I'm going to start with the beginning of Baden-Powell in the next video. So the one or two people that are there may be happy you're there. And then I'll catch you next time. That's going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock again.